People. My new weekly YouTube goings on video. I've got to come up with a better name than that. I'm currently going to call it my week on YouTube, or this week on YouTube. I think I'll call it this week on YouTube. Okay, so I'm just going to pick a few channels, and I've got my little notebook down here to refer to. So I'm going to pick a few channels who have had some goings on this week. That is kind of a bit like a shout out video, but it's not a shout out video. All the links will be down below for you to go and check out any of the stories that I'm telling you about, or any of the channels I'm telling you about, in case you fancy going and checking them out. I'll also stick a little picture over here of the people that I'm talking about and things that are happening. But it's just some of the fun things or interesting things that I have found this week on my YouTube perusing. Oh, it's a big word for a Monday morning, YouTube perusing. So I'm going to start with Dan's Haunted Cottage. Now, I appreciate it is Monday morning, and I should probably do this on a Saturday or a Sunday. But it's something I've been thinking about. And so I thought I'd do the first one today, and then I'll do the others on a Saturday or a Sunday. So, Dan's Haunted Cottage. Dan went up to Hull last week and did a great investigation that went really, really well. Of a pub, I believe it was, and he was going to use this for his Halloween special video. So he travelled all the way up to Hull. This is not an easy thing to do. He lives not far from me, and Hull is a good 4 hours, 5 hours away, which I know for you Americans is probably nothing, but for us British people, you know, that's a proper road trip. I used to date a guy in Hull early when I was in my early 20s, and you know, I used to sit on that M1 for 4 or 5 hours at a time. So I know the troubles he went to go up there. Anyway, poor love comes home at silly o'clock in the morning, and all the footage is gone. It was recording while he was there. It was gone when he got back. Now I'm thinking, he said it was a really good investigation, so I'm thinking the paranormal entities didn't want to be seen, so they removed themselves from his camera. I thought there must be, you know, some sort of paranormal reason for this, because he checked the camera several times. It was working when he got there, and it was working when he came home, but everything from that location was gone. So anyway, we had a sad Dan for a few days. Then we suddenly saw Happy Dan at the end of the week, which was very lovely to see. And I'll put his little happy face up here. Happy Dan was very happy because he had taken his memory card or whatever it was over to the friend who does his investigations with, and his friend located it in a different folder on the memory card or what have you, somewhere that wasn't where he expected to find it. So all the footage has been found. So that has saved him a second trip up to Hull this week to go and re-record it for Wednesday's Halloween special. So yes, we had Happy Dan. He was also a hero to his family. I don't think he was quite the hero he made out. Even he has said that he's probably bigging himself up a little bit. His wife somehow set fire to a Thomas the Tank Engine plate in the kitchen, and he went and put the fire out, while his little son sat at the kitchen table watching everything going on and seeming completely unfazed by the fire in the kitchen. So well done, Dan, for your heroics. I think the bigger story here is, though, that Thomas the Tank Engine has been murdered by Dan's wife. And I think there's going to be uproar. And I think that we need to make this woman pay. Hazel, you must pay for your murdering ways of Thomas the Tank Engine. So, moving on to other kitchen disasters. The Happy Travellers. The Happy Travellers started the week with some lovely news. They passed their motorhome habitation check. The only thing that I think needed to be done, they did have some repairs and bits that they knew needed to be done, but they needed to have their toilet flap lubricated. I don't know what that entails. It sounds rather painful, and it gave us a giggle. But yes, their toilet flap is currently fully lubricated. Great, I'm sure. But the kitchen disaster came this weekend when they were trying out their slow cooker. It's a camper van's version of a slow cooker. And it's a thermal cooker or something, so I'm not entirely sure. You start it off on the hob, you bring it up to boil, and then somehow it cooks within its thermal pot or something. Anyway, bless them, they were telling us about their lovely meal, about how good this piece of kit is. And after about 15 minutes of chit chat, they opened it up and their lamb was raw. So I don't know what went wrong. I suspect there was a takeaway shortly after. I think I would have gone for a takeaway. But bless them, yeah, this lovely, beautiful lamb joint and potatoes and vegetables that they had been waiting, I think they said about 6 hours, 7 hours to enjoy was raw. So I don't know what went wrong there, bless them. But their little faces, they were like, oh, this is going to be lovely. And then they were like, oh. So yes, hopefully they did get a nice meal last night for their dinner, or Saturday night, if it was Saturday night, because I just felt so sorry for them. Okay, the next on the line of disasters, Glenda Sully. So Glenda Sully is kind of, I would say, she's kind of surrogate mum to a lovely girl called Maudlin, who I think she lived in the apartment complex that Glenda lives in and still lives there. I think Maudlin's mum's moved away, but I think Glenda's kind of her proxy mum, or mum in standing. And she went to help her a couple of weeks ago buy a new car. This is like her first car. She passed the test. She's going to start driving. So excited. This weekend, bless her, she was involved in a car accident. And I'm pretty certain by the way it's described and the bits of car that was left on the road, I think it's been written off. Maudlin is fine. I think she's very shook up. I think she's probably very upset by the whole thing. She's still paying for this car that she's got, and she's going to, I hope the insurance covers the cost of it, but quite often it doesn't, does it? And the poor lover's had a chunk come out of her lip because she hit her head on the steering wheel and the airbag didn't deploy. So I'm hoping they're going to look into why the airbag didn't deploy. I mean, it was a side-on collision, so I guess maybe that's why. I think you maybe have to have a bumper collision to deploy the airbag. I'm not sure. But yeah, the poor love is feeling very sorry for herself. But Glenda was there. Glenda took the phone call, rushed over to the hospital to go and check her out, and then took her for a milkshake because, bless her, she can't eat with that. So she could put the straw in and have a nice cold milkshake to cheer her up. So yes, good on Glenda. Okay. Mange 2. Mange 2's tea making skills leave a lot to be desired. If you saw the tea he made in his video, in his last video, I was horrified. He produced it with the tea bag still in it. I believe it looked like the tea bag was still in it. He was dipping a brush in it and he served it up in a jam jar. To be fair, he was making wood stain. So I tease him, but he was making wood stain and it was pretty good. So he brewed up some black tea, and he also brewed up some white wine vinegar or white vinegar. I don't know if they're the same or different, and with some steel wool in it. And he left it for periods of time and tested it kind of every half hour to get a different effect. He used it solely on the wood as it was, or he put it over the tea stain as well. So he'd do the layer of tea first and then do the white wine vinegar one afterwards. And the effects were really good. I have to say I was very impressed. It makes a really good natural wood dye. He's using it in his van, so he was prepping the wood for his van. Like he said, it's a no-brainer. You could go and buy Cuprinol or one of the other big brands, or even like a B&Q home brand kind of wood stain, and you're looking at probably £14. I don't know. I mean, I've not bought wood stain for quite a long time, but it's not cheap stuff. For the price of a couple of tea bags, a bit of wire wool, some jam jars, a bit of white wine vinegar, you've made yourself a pretty decent wood stain. it just made the wood look aged. It was a lovely effect. I preferred the grey. The longer you left the wire wool vinegar solution to stand, without taking the wire wool out, the longer you left that to stand, kind of the more brown it seemed to go. But it made a really lovely grey colour. So I think he's done a really good job of that. If you want to go and check it out, if you're, have a need for some homemade wood stain, definitely. I mean, even if you don't, go check it out, because actually it was really interesting. I never would have thought to use those things. It just would not have occurred to me. And another lovely, well-deserved shout out and mention goes to Joy Steward this week. She hit her 1K sub mark. That is such a big milestone for us little YouTubers, and she's such a lovely lady. She didn't start off YouTube with the intention of getting a certain amount of subscribers. She just wanted to keep it real. She wanted to share things. She touched on the fact that her son has special needs. As a mother of children with special needs myself, I can appreciate the fact that things are harder. Raising your children is harder. And it's not easy for anyone to raise children, don't get me wrong. But raising children with special needs just has that other element of having to fight their corner all the time, having to just... everything's a bit harder. Just going to the shops is a bit harder. Just going on holiday, sometimes you just can't do it. You can't do it because they can't cope with it. So everything's that bit harder. And it was so nice. It was so well deserved for her to get this 1K milestone. All her videos are usually quite short, and that's fine. I mean, I quite like a quick video. But she absolutely deserves this 1K. She just shares a little bit of family life with you, and her and her boys, they're kind of grown up. I get the impression they're kind of 20. These lads were carving pumpkins. Oh my goodness, they did some amazing pumpkins. She just shares a bit of her life, and people enjoy that. And she's so active, and what's the word I'm looking for? She gets involved with like live streams, and she always comments on videos. So she's she's really got involved with the YouTube community. And I think, like I said, sometimes when you're isolated because your children struggle in social situations, or you can't get out as much, or for whatever reason, YouTube is great for just making those connections. And I have to say, I think she's made quite a lot of friends. Well, she's made 1K friends on here. So good on you, Joy. Good on you. You absolutely deserve that 1K. Now I've done my little roundup of what I found on YouTube this week. And remember, the links to those channels are going to be in my description. So if you fancy going and checking them out, or checking out on any of the stories I've told you about, then go click on them down below. But the one thing I do want to give you a heads up on is Worm's Eye View, that's me, and Minx Laura 123, which is her, are going to be going and watching the Queen film this Friday night. So we are going to go to the cinema. We're going to watch the Queen film that is currently out at the cinema. We Will Rock You, or I can't remember what it's called. And we are going to go and watch it, and we are going to go and give our reviews on what we thought of it. So yeah, check out this space for our opinion on the Queen film. A little Minx Laura 123 Worm's Eye View collab. Yes. So heads up for that. Give you something to look forward to. Probably Saturday that will go live, because Friday night we'll just be having fun. Right, let me know what you think of this new little video, and if it's something that you think you'd like to see each week, then I'll do one each week. And you never know, you may be featured on This Week in YouTube.